Hello and welcome to a little spring reading vlog. My name's Grace. It is lovely to have you here. I am so delighted that it is finally getting a little bit brighter and I hesitate to say warmer. I managed to go outside for the first time yesterday without wearing a giant coat, so I'm gonna say that it's spring. And I have a few books that I would like to read over this extended Easter weekend that feel like they have a little bit of a spring vibe to them. The first book, and the most important one that I really want to get through, is The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Marie Crowhurst. This is a story set in the 1600s in England about a girl called Ursula who wants to become a playwright. She's kind of fascinated with the world of theatre, but of course at the time that isn't necessarily an acceptable thing for a lady of society to be doing, and her family want her to marry instead. As you can see from my bookmark, I have started this one, but I've really not gotten that far. This was actually recommended to me by my partner's sister, and she thought that I'd really like the writing style, which I am really enjoying so far. It's a very characterful writing style. I really don't know how to describe it. I think a lot of the time in kind of period writing, whether it was actually written at that time or written recently to kind of emanate that feeling, it can feel quite tongue-in-cheek. Austen, for example, is just really known for her wit and for picking apart interesting characters in a kind of subtle but tongue-in-cheek kind of way, and I'm getting that from this writing style as well, but I'm really not that far in, so I will have to keep you updated on how that goes throughout this one. I also have a non-fiction book that was on my 24 books I wanted to read in 2024 list, and it's just become available on my library audiobook app, so I might try and listen to that one as well. But that is Enchantment by Katherine May. This is a non-fiction book about kind of trying to find awe again for the natural world and life in general, trying to be enchanted by life again when you feel a bit burnt out. And I could really do with a bit of that, I think. I find the natural world to be such a balm for my mental health and my soul. Usually when I'm in a bit of a rut, I often find that nature can just remind me about the good things in the world and how small some of my problems are in comparison. So I'm hoping this will have that kind of feel to it. I have heard some mixed reviews. I'm not a huge non-fiction person myself, especially in the kind of self-help aspect. I often find that they can be quite repetitive, or I think a lot of them end up, they could be an essay or like a TED talk, you know, that's been lengthened out into a book so that they could sell a book, and it feels like you're just kind of reading filler, and I've heard that in some reviews for this one, so I'm nervous about that. But maybe the writing style in here will pull me through. I've heard good things about Wintering, this author's other book, so we'll see, you know? I'll give it a try. I also have a graphic novel that I've been meaning to read for quite some time, and that is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko, Tamaki and Rosemary Valero-O'Connell. I have no real reason for thinking this is spring vibes other than the fact that the cover feels cherry blossomy. This is about a sapphic relationship, and when I first heard about it I assumed it would be a romance, but from what I've heard since, it is not that simple. It is about a girl in high school whose girlfriend keeps breaking up with her, and their relationship is not all that healthy. So I think it's a lot more about maybe trying to extricate yourself from an unhealthy relationship when you have feelings and friendships and just teen vibes. I really like teen coming of age stories these days. I'm not sure why, but they've really been hitting for me in the last year or so. I actually got this out of the library. I have a little bit of a life update. If you've watched many of my videos before, you might have heard me mention that I work in a bookstore, and I did work in a bookstore, but I actually just left to start a new job at a library nearby, and I just started this week. I'm really enjoying it so far. I think that the vibe of a library just fits me a little bit better, and I think libraries are just so important. I think that in general, in bookish spaces, there is quite a lot of consumerism, and I know that I have contributed to some of that myself, especially with the amount of discount that I was using when I worked at this bookstore. So I'm hoping to use the library a lot more now and to get out of the habit of just buying every book I think looks good. I would love to get to the place where I'm reading things from the library first, and then if I really truly love them, maybe I'll buy a copy to have on my shelf. So hopefully you'll see a lot more library content from me in the future. So these are the 3 books I'm hoping to get to in the next few days. We will see how it goes. But for today, my partner and I are actually going to go on a little date and head out to get some lunch and then go to a park nearby and enjoy the beginning of spring and hopefully get some reading done while we're out there. That feels like such a welcoming of spring when you can finally sit and read outside for a little bit. I don't think it's quite warm enough to do it for too long, but hopefully we can get a little bit in and feed some ducks while we're at it. So I will catch up with you when we get back.
Oh. What's his name? Jude Duarte. And that right there, that's Maddock, baby.
Hello. It is later in the day. We had a lovely little walk. It was really nice. And we actually did. It was warm enough that we could read outside for a little bit. It was very busy at the park, which hadn't occurred to me for some reason, even though it's Easter weekend. So all of the birds that we tried to feed seemed too full and did not care whatsoever. But it just felt really springy and sunshiny, and it was really nice to be able to actually sit outside for a little bit without freezing to death. So I have read a little bit more of Ursula Flight. I took the dust jacket off to keep it safe, and I'm still really enjoying this so far, but I'm still not that far in. But the writing is very quirky so far and has made me laugh on several occasions. Not necessarily because it's like cracked a joke, it's just had some really quirky turns of phrase in there that I've really enjoyed. They've like tickled my little reader brain. I've also started the audiobook of Enchantment. I'm only about 40 minutes in, I think, and I'm struggling so far. This one has had some really pretty turns of phrase in there, but I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I don't know if this is the kind of book where I'm really meant to, but I don't know if it's necessarily saying anything new to me, anything that I haven't really thought myself. It's just saying those things in quite a pretty way, which does have value in and of itself. It's just less attention grabbing, you know? So I find myself just kind of lapsing out and thinking about other things and having to rewind and try again. But still, I'm not that far in, so I will definitely be giving it more of a chance than this, and I will keep you updated. So I will see you in the morning for some more reading tomorrow. Hello, it is the next day. I have been reading a bit more of Ursula Flight last night and this morning. I'm about 100 pages in now, and I'm loving this so much. It's really, really good. It's made me laugh out loud several times now. It's just so interestingly written. It's hard to describe. It's very blunt. I think this is one of those stories which I absolutely love usually, where you just kind of follow a person's life rather than having the classic plot structure of a beginning, middle and end, and there's a classic kind of arc in there. This is just you're following whatever is going to happen to this person throughout the course of their life. And currently Ursula is still only, I think, 15, 16, and it's been really interesting to read from her perspective as she's grown up and see all of those childlike thoughts and how she got into mischief, especially during this time, what that would mean. That would be like running into the woods and getting mud on your fanciest gown. She's a really interesting character, and I think I'm gonna fall for her more as the book goes on and she grows up and really comes into herself. She also really loves theatre. She's read a few plays and begun to write them herself, and the way that that theme is used in here is really fun because some of the book, a few scenes are written in script format. So even though there are scenes that are actually happening within the story, they'll be written as if you're reading a play. So this is a dinner party that Ursula's mum is hosting, and you have all of the different characters here. And the title page of the play is The Siege of Binfield, or however you say it. A comedy written by Miss Ursula Flight. So it's as if she is constructing this narrative, even though it does seem to be actually happening to her. It's just really fun. I'm just having a really good time. I actually don't have too much time to read for the rest of the day because I'm going to a concert tonight with a friend. That's why I'm kind of dressed up. We're going to see Griff, whose music I don't know that well. My friend really likes her and asked me to go with her, and I've been listening to her since, and I do really like the stuff I've listened to, but it should be good fun. But I'm gonna see how much more I can get rid of this before I have to set off, but I'm really enjoying it so far.
Tell you, but it feels like I know you. No, you don't have to go so fast, so fast. Darling, if you don't want you, don't have to get your back, your back. With everybody else knowing you, don't have to go so quickly. Stay a little longer with me. No, you don't have to go so fast, so fast.
Good morning. It is the next day. The concert was really good last night. Griff was amazing live. Her voice was so good and she just seemed really cool and sweet. She just kept kind of spinning around on stage and it just felt like joy. Also, I think she sews her own outfits, and the dress that she was wearing was so cool. It was like all patchwork together from different fabrics and very perfect to spin in. Just impeccable vibes, really. But today I am free to get lots of reading done, hopefully. So I think I'm gonna head out to a cafe and try and get some reading done today. Gonna bring Ursula Flight, but also I think I'm gonna bring Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. I think it would be cute to read this out in the world. I've not started this one yet, but the illustration style in here is really interesting because it is grayscale except for this one colour pink that they add in. So like this, which makes it really cute and feels very springy to me, that colour pink. I'm really just infusing my wish for this to be spring themed into here. I have no idea if it actually is. So yeah, we're gonna go out into the world. It is a little bit rainy right now, but it should clear up, I think, as the day goes on. So yeah, let's go on a little reading adventure. Hello, I am back. I actually ended up meeting my mum for lunch. She popped in to say hi and have a little catch up. So I didn't get as much reading time as I expected, but it was really nice to see her. But I did still get to the cafe I was planning to go to, and I read all of Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. I enjoyed this one. It very much was not a love story. This is about a toxic relationship and the way that that impacts the main character and her friendships. I thought the illustrations in here were gorgeous. I really liked them and it was really easy. I could fly through it. I mean, I read it in one sitting. It definitely dealt with some interesting themes, some that were a little bit heavier. I would maybe double check the trigger warnings for this one before you go in. And I did honestly find the main character quite annoying throughout some of this, which I think she was meant to be because it was a story about how her being in a toxic relationship was impacting the way that she was treating everyone else in her life. This was very diverse. There were a lot of queer characters in here, and I did feel like the central characters' friends were all fleshed out reasonably well. I mean, as well as they could be for such a short space of time, really, but they all felt quite real to me. I would definitely recommend this one. It's not like a favorite, but I flew through it. It was definitely easy to read, and it did explore, I think, that toxic relationship quite well and quite cathartically, I would say. So yeah, if you're interested in reading about toxic relationships specifically, or just want like a queer graphic novel, then Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. Now that I'm home, I've done a bit of laundry, I'm gonna sit down for a little bit and get to a little bit more of Ursula Flight, and then I might do a little bit more tidying and try to listen to some of the audiobook of Enchantment. I'm hoping that if I have something to do with my hands while I'm listening, that will help me to pay attention a little bit more. So I will come back to you with another update in a little bit. Hello again. I am about 2 hours into the audiobook of Enchantment now, and I don't know how to feel. Oh, also, I just realised that I did not have my microphone attached to my camera since we got back from our walk the other day, so I am so sorry for the bad audio, but we are back to normal now. I really don't know how to feel about this book because it's quite spiritual and I am not a spiritual person. It's strange because I think the way that I feel about nature could be described as spiritual, but I don't really take it that way. To me, it's like a scientific sense of awe, you know? I realise that it's triggering things in my brain. Chemicals are zooming around up there, making me go, oh, wow, at a cool tree. But the word enchantment does imply some level of spirituality, so I don't know if maybe I'm just a bit too much of a pessimist for this. The author, Katherine May, talks at one point about how the way that meditation was taught to her was quite patriarchal and didn't really factor into the fact that women often aren't given the same amount of time as men because they are often caregivers as well as having to work, or just the fact that having children doesn't really give you much time to yourself. You really have to give that attention to other people rather than being able to have that mindfulness in your own body and self. I did kind of find myself going, oh yay, feminism, I know this, I can do that part. I don't know how much I'm gaining from this. I think I feel like I'm finishing it because it's quite short and I own it and I wanted to read it this year. I'm not saying don't read it. Maybe if you are a spiritual person, you would get more out of this book. It's not badly written by any means. I just don't know if it's telling me anything that I don't already know. I think maybe I need to read some more kind of like feminist literature. I really want to find my niche in non-fiction. I know that there is good non-fiction out there, I know it exists. The only ones that I have really enjoyed thus far are mostly memoirs. I did really enjoy Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge. I read that one a few years back and it looks at the history of racism specifically in the UK. It does kind of look further afield, but mostly in the UK. And it even referenced like my hometown and some of the history there. So I felt very connected to that one and it was really informative. I think in general, probably I'm going to care a bit more about social issues, but nature is a huge passion for me. So I feel like there should be a branch of nature writing that I will find interesting. Maybe I just need it to be the more scientific side. I definitely have some of those on my TBR, especially mushroom themed ones. So I'll probably do like a mushroom themed vlog one of these days where I read loads of those, and hopefully they will hit different. But yeah, I only have a few hours left at the audiobook of this one, so I should be able to power through the rest of it tomorrow. And I'm still really enjoying Ursula Flight. She's currently, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but she's having a rough time, shall we say, and I'm ready for her to break free. I feel like she will, from her current constraints, because I know that she generally just causes mischief. I always enjoy hearing about a character in times past when women were a lot more constrained and had a lot of rules to follow, who breaks those molds. I don't know how realistic it will be in the way that a woman would be treated when they tried to do that in that period of time, but it's still fun either way, and the writing is still excellent in here. So I'm gonna head to bed now and read a little bit more in bed, and I have a fully free day tomorrow, so hopefully I can get a lot more done tomorrow as well. See you in the morning. Hello, good morning, or good early afternoon. We had a slow start, but I did get some more reading done this morning of Ursula Flight. I am on page 212, which is just over halfway, I think, and I'm still really enjoying this one. It has been a little bit heavier. It really doesn't shy away from the fact that women had very little agency in this time period when it came to choosing a husband, or when they wanted to have sex or didn't want to have sex. Maybe look up the trigger warnings if you think that that is something that might make you uncomfortable. Miss Ursula is having a rough time with it, but she's still such a feisty character. I love hearing from her perspective, and the author has now added in new formats. So she'll have some chapters that are written in classic prose, some chapters that are written in that kind of script style that I mentioned before, and some that are written in lists or letters or journal style. And it really just breaks things up, and you get to hear a lot more of her voice and get to know her through the way she describes things. I really don't know where we're gonna go with this one, and I'm enjoying that because it doesn't have the classic plot structure. It's more just you're following someone's life and the things that happen to them. I think that she is in a low moment right now, so I'm hoping things will get better for her in the second half of the book, but really I have no idea how this could end, and I'm just really enjoying being along for the ride. So we're gonna have a big reading day today, hopefully. I think maybe I need to read more historical novels. This is one of the first just historical, not historical fantasy novels that I've read in quite some time, probably since I was like 10. And I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if I'm just enjoying this particular writing style, but I think maybe this is the genre I need to explore a little bit more and give more of a chance to. So hopefully the second half will be just as good, but I will let you know. I have talked about this before. You're probably sick of me complaining about it by now. But I live in a city, and we've lived here for about 2 years now in a little flat, and it's fine. It's, you know, the actual flat itself is fine. We got a pretty good deal for where we are, but I'm just not a city person, and I've really learned this from living here. And I've known this for quite some time, that I wanted to move out into somewhere with a bit more nature, but I find, especially as we're coming into spring again, that there's a churchyard nearish to our flat. It's kind of on my walk to get groceries or go to the bus stop, and I will find myself clinging on to just the hints of nature that I get from walking past the churchyard, and there's a blossom tree and a magnolia tree, and there will be birds flitting about sometimes, and I'll just stop on the pavement and try to soak in that little bit of serotonin. We are planning on moving at some point, we just have to figure out where, and lots of different factors. So in the meantime, I go on walks, I get on buses to get out into the sticks where I can, and I read to take myself out into different worlds. If you live in nature, please just soak it in for a minute and remind yourself that there are people who would love to be you. Not that this is anyone's fault but my own for moving here, but you know, lesson learned, Grace, you're not built for the city. Anyway, I've listened to another hour or so of Enchantment, and I've been reading some more Ursula Flight. Enchantment, I don't know. I think largely like the message of this book, I am desperately looking for moments of meaning in here, and every so often she'll say something, like she was talking briefly about burnout, and I was like, wait, I know this, I can deal with this bit. It's very much more about her own experiences, and I thought it would be a bit more self-helpy, which is strange because I've never actively wanted to read a self-help book before, but that was more what I was expecting, like it would be a guide on how to learn to be enchanted again. But it's more about her difficulties during the pandemic and just with modern life. I was kind of hoping to finish both of these today, but I have been way too ambitious, as usual. I have to remember my own reading speeds. I am going back to work tomorrow, but I only have like a half day, so I think I'm gonna try and find somewhere green that I can sit, weather permitting, tomorrow afternoon and get some more reading done. I'm gonna get some more done tonight as well, but I might also make Chris play a game of Wingspan with me. He owes me a match. If you haven't played Wingspan, it is one of my favourite board games, and it is about birds. It's an engine building game where you get these different cards that have different abilities that link into the actual bird's abilities in real life. Honestly, it's quite complicated to begin with and intimidating looking, but once you played it once, it sticks with you, and oh, I love it so much. And they've just brought out a new version of it called Wormspan that is dragons. So needless to say, I was very excited. But we haven't got that one yet. As soon as we do, I will definitely be making Chris play many games. But yeah, I will either update you tonight if I have anything interesting to say, but if not, I'll probably see you tomorrow, hopefully outdoors. I'm gonna play this Clark's Nutcracker for 2 eggs, 20 centimeters. It's a nuthatch, it's a pygmy nuthatch. Aww. I didn't know there was such a thing. Okay.
Free and everything.
Add up your bird scores. But then, birds with colours in their name, I crushed it.
Yeah, 75.
Oh!
Really close.
Hello. I meant to update you much earlier than this, but I just got totally wrapped up in reading Ursula Flight for several hours. That is the first time in pretty much as long as I can remember where I've fully just lost track of time reading. I am so easily distractible, and I was just fully in that world, immersed. I only have about 50 pages left, I'm near the end, so I'm probably gonna finish it tomorrow, hopefully, but I am so enjoying this. It is strange because it's not necessarily an uplifting book with the things that actually happen in here. The main character has quite a rough time, but the way that she tells it is so witty that you can't help but laugh, and you're really rooting for her. You want her to find happiness at the end of this, and I really hope that she does. This has really opened my eyes up to a whole new genre. I would love to read some more historical fiction after this. If any of you can recommend me some really good, funny historical fiction, then please do. On a different note, I did finish Enchanted earlier, and let's just say while reading this I could do nothing but get distracted. This just wasn't for me. I don't know, maybe I just wasn't the target audience, and maybe listening to it on audiobook didn't help, but I honestly don't know if I would have finished it if I'd read it physically. I just found myself wondering what the point of each chapter was meant to be. It really wasn't bad. It wasn't badly written at all. There were some really beautiful moments, and there were little moments that I could connect to, like when she started to talk about burnout or her difficulty with writing and reading and getting back into those things after a break. But in terms of this book teaching me anything, I don't feel like it did. There were a lot of moments where I felt like she was saying a lot of pretty words but not actually saying that much. You know when you're reading and it feels like the words are kind of slipping out of your grasp, like they're sliding against your mind instead of latching on and creating some kind of picture or meaning? That's what this felt like for most of the book, and at first I was trying to cling on to them, but towards the end I was just kind of letting them slide by, I think. Normally I am such a stickler for making sure I understand everything that's being said, but in this one I didn't, and I had to accept that partway through because I was just like, I'm not gonna finish this if I re-listen to every single line until I understand what she's talking about. This just didn't hit for me, but it's okay because we have Ursula Flight to the rescue. So I guess I will update you when I am done properly with Ursula Flight and my final thoughts on it. I can't see my mind changing currently. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully the last 50 pages or so won't ruin that for me, but you know, we shall see. I have finished The Illumination of Ursula Flight. I love this one. I think that the ending wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. It didn't hit quite as hard as it could have done, but it did still tie things together quite nicely. I think just kind of going in blind and reading out of my comfort zone usually pays off for me, especially when I have it on a good recommendation. So thank you, Laura, for this one. You were right. It's such an interesting one because this is not an uplifting story, really. Most of this book, the main character is suffering. The time they live in, women are not treated well, and she is really forced into a life that she doesn't want. But because of the way this is written, it's just so quirky and enjoyable, and you can't help but smile and laugh and appreciate the way that the main character looks on her circumstances. I will also say that on the blurb for this one, it really talks about theatre and the main character being flung into this world of actresses and high life and city scandal and artistic endeavours. And although theatre is a big aspect of this book in the sense that it is the main character's biggest passion, they really want to be a playwright and they love writing throughout the book, especially scripts. The actual world of theatre doesn't take up that much of this book, so if you're going in looking for that, it won't necessarily happen in the way that you expect. It is in there, it's just not the majority of the time we spend with the main character. Also, I would say definitely look up the trigger warnings for this one because there are some kind of grim moments. Ursula really does go through quite a lot in here, but I think that the thing that really grabbed me in this one was the writing style and the amount of different formats that this was written in. It's so fun. There are just so many different shifts between the writing format. For example, this is when Ursula's in a carriage, so you can see that her writing gets really messy. Just little things like that I just found so fun. And there'll be some pages that are written in list format or diary entries or scripts, as I mentioned. I think as a writer this was a really interesting one and really kind of opened up my mind to different possibilities while writing a book of that creativity that you can have, and that it doesn't just have to be straight up prose throughout. I would definitely recommend this one if you enjoy historical fiction. This has opened my eyes to the world of historical fiction. I definitely want to read some more. So that is The Illumination of Ursula Flight. So here we are at the end of this reading vlog. I've already returned. Laura Dean keeps breaking up with me to the library in case someone else wanted it. But thank you for coming along with me on this little spring journey. I'm so happy that we are finally getting out of winter, and although this was a bit of a mixed reading experience, we probably had one of my least favourite books of the year in here. We also had one of my favourite ones so far, so I'll take it. A win is a win. Please let me know if you've read anything interesting lately, especially if you've read anything that was out of your comfort zone or surprised you in some way. I would love to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye bye.